G'day everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Pierre and this is Simple Home Brew. Guess what? We're doing a collaborative video today with Mike from Bitter Reality Brewing. It's called a Blushing Ginger Saison. Mike is from Florida, I'm from Australia, and we're brewing this on opposite sides of the world at the same time. Stick around guys, this is going to be awesome. I met Mike online. He actually contacted me through YouTube, and ever since then we've been bouncing off each other and learning from each other. My opinion is that I have been learning a lot more from him than he has off me. So today we're doing a collaboration brew and I'm looking forward to it. It looks like a really good brew. So let's get into it, shall we?
Today we're doing my favorite brew. It's a Raspberry Ginger Saison. I call it the Blushing Ginger, and I always put a number based on the year it's brewed. 2020, I didn't get around to brewing it, but I brewed it every year. Even at the end of the first year that I started brewing, somebody gave me a free packet of 565. It was expired. I didn't care for Saisons back then. And I just kind of made it my own and created my own recipe for the first time and jumped right in, and people loved it. I loved it. It was great. And every year there, minus last year, I brewed 5 gallons. And then 2 years ago, actually, I brewed 15 gallons just to keep up with the demand. Pierre's pretty much my motivation for finally starting to record. I've been wanting to do recordings of all the beer experiments I've done, and I've done probably well over a couple hundred now since I first started brewing. And I've always been gun shy. Pierre's just very down to earth, a lot like I am in a lot of ways. We can, relate to certain things, have some similar hobbies. And the only difference is he lives half a world away, and that's a huge difference. So we're going to brew the same beer pretty much around the same exact time. Hope that it ferments out around the same amount, same time. Bottle or keg. I'm looking to keg. I might bottle some off for sharing, and do everything as in line with each other as humanly possible. Now, he doesn't have an anvil. He has a totally different brew system, a Grainfather, which I have one, but I'm sticking to my anvil. I've got the jaded Scylla. He's got the counterflow. We have different things and different ways of brewing this, and everybody out there isn't the same. And that's kind of one of the points with this collaboration, is that we all do things a little differently. Doesn't mean we can't all brew great beer. This is a very easy beer. It's a very simple beer. There are some complexities to it, but it's not a big deal, and you can take it, make it your own, and change it. I don't care. I've modified this one a little bit each year. I've been brewing this since I first started brewing. I did it the first 5-gallon batch ever, and that was towards the end of my first year of brewing. And actually, it was about 6 months into the first year of my brewing. But yeah, I learned I really didn't like bottling 5 gallons at a time. That was a lot of bottling. But you can ferment this at room temp in your house. If you're around 70 Fahrenheit, just put it in a fermenter, cover it up, make sure there's no light getting in, and just let it go. I will warn you, the yeast is important, and the yeast is White Labs 565, and it smells like feet. Not a good thing to be sniffing. But as it gets towards the end, it'll smell fine, it'll taste great, it'll be awesome. Pierre, what are you brewing it in today, and what are you looking to possibly ferment it in?
Oh, Mike, thanks for asking. I'm doing it in a Grainfather. The Grainfather isn't a bad little brewing system. It does have one flaw though. The basket is very hard to put into the grain tube or the grain pipe, but I can handle that. I'm also fermenting it in a fermzilla with a bowl, not the all-rounder that you've got, but a bowl that catches the yeast. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be under 15 pounds of pressure all through the brew process, and I'm going to leave it at 21 degrees Celsius, which is about 75 degrees Fahrenheit.
The grain bill, like I said, is very simple, and I'll let Pierre put it in kilograms and grams, but for me here in the US, we have 5 pounds, 12 ounces of Pilsner malt, just your standard Pilsner, smells good, it's all good. 1.5 pounds of flaked wheat. And I know you're thinking, wow, okay, so this could be a little hazy beer. Actually, shockingly, I've been bottle conditioning these beers for years, and they always seem to come out very clear. Not initially, but they do, so I'm kind of thinking this might end up being a clear beer, even with all that extra haze from that flaked wheat, which helps carry the flavor, and that's why the flaked wheat's in there. Helps to carry the flavor for the raspberries and the ginger, so it can sit on your palate for a moment longer. We also have 8 ounces of rye malt, Gotta add a little spice, and I know some people say rye is not spicy. It's not like pepper, it's not like a hot pepper, but it's got a little thing going on, and some people consider it a hint on the spice. I can't even notice a little bit of rye nowadays. You gotta put a decent amount in there before I notice it, but it's just me. We've got 10 ounces of caramel or crystal malt 10, and we have 6 ounces of carapils. Even though I don't use carapils very much anymore, it's part of the recipe, I threw it in. And I didn't used to do pHs of my mash for years, so I've always added 4 ounces of acid malt. So I'm very curious to see where we end up falling as far as on the pH. Also, I always brewed this with spring water. I don't think I can't remember the last time if I brewed it with modified water, but this will be the first time I modify it. Actually, I think it's the second time. I think I did 2 years ago because I didn't brew it last year. It was the first time I didn't brew it. And I've done 5 gallons almost every year, minus 2 years ago I did 15 gallons just to keep up with the demand. Most popular beer I've ever made as far as people I meet, talk to, and good friends. The other thing is the hops. The hops are not that important. You want something kind of tropical, maybe a hint of citrus, but something that will complement that raspberry and ginger. And just, for balance and maybe a little bit at the very end. I'll tell you what I'm using, and then I'll let Pierre tell you what he's using. I'm dropping in 1 ounce of Denali at 15 minutes. It used to be experimental 06277 back when I first started using it. And it works great. It'll balance it. It'll give us nice, balance on the IBUs. And then I'll turn around and drop Wahiti at 1 ounce at 0, at flame out. And that's just to give us a little aroma that will complement that raspberry. Chances are with all the moving and the raspberry additions, most of that aroma escapes anyways, but I'm gonna throw it in. Maybe I'll toss 2 ounces, I don't know. Pierre, what hops are you choosing to use?
So what happened, I had to do a bit of research to find Denali hops. Denali hops is quite hard to get hold of. So I did a bit of research, found out that Sultana hops is the same thing. It's just branded differently. So I got Sultana hops. So I'm using Sultana hops, same measurements, 28.3 grams, which is your 1 ounce. I think it's what it comes to. And I'm also using the Wahiti, which is the same, 28.3 grams. So I'm using your steps in your recipe, and I'm sure you've got it right.
And as I mentioned, I did Centennial 1 year because that's what I had. It was when I was first starting, so I think that was my first one I ever did. And then the other thing we're looking to do is I have a Firmzilla, not quite as fancy as Pierre's fermenter, as mine's an all-rounder. It doesn't have that nice little attachment on the bottom and everything. But if I can find something to cover it, because the cover I ordered hasn't arrived, I'll use that and I'll do a pressure fermentation, even though I've never done a pressure fermentation. And like I said, I'm just going to do it at room temperature, which should be around 70, 72 degrees on the floor. So we'll see how it goes. Pierre, you ready to get brewing?
Oh yeah, I have all the ingredients you have listed in your recipe. I have my Grainfather cleaned and ready to go. Let's do it.
Awesome. If you're ready, Pierre, I'm ready. Let's get brewing. Okay, Pierre, I hope things are a lot quieter where you are. We've got people going nuts in their yards, and I'm afraid if I wait much longer, they'll start ripping out the chainsaws. So, got my brewing salts I'm going to go ahead and add, which of course are sticking to the thing because they've been out here in the moisture. Okay, my brew system calls for 7.3 gallons with 1 gallon held back for sparging. I'm going to go 7.5. I've been cooking off way too much water lately, and I'm holding back 1.5 gallons. Go ahead and kind of stir up the brewing salts. Okay, Pierre, you ready to mash in? I know we have 1.5 pounds of flaked wheat, so I don't know if you're into rice hulls, but I'm using about 1.5 cups or 16, silo cups, basically 1.5 cups, which is probably about 3.5 ounces.
I most certainly am, Mike. I'm ready to go. I'm going to add the grains. What I did, though, is I realised that I had forgotten that I needed sparge water, or I needed to save some water for sparging later. So I heated up my my Grainfather, and I had to empty some out into my Digiboil and keep the Digiboil on at 75 degrees Celsius, which is, I'll put a Fahrenheit somewhere and show you. But I'm ready to go. Now I've done something that was suggested to me. My basket, this one, has been in the freezer overnight. So I figured freeze it, make it freezing cold, while my holder is hot. This should be smaller because it's shrunk because of the heat cold. It should just flow straight in to my pipe. Now I've always had issues getting this in quickly and easily, but the rubber kept coming off on me. Wow, look at that. Woohoo! Woo! First shot. How cool is that? First shot. Alrighty. Bring that up. I am very happy with that. Can't whinge. Pop that in there. Right, now I am ready to do this. Spoon. So here are my grains. As you can see, I'm going to do it awkwardly like I always do, but this time I did this myself for grinding. So the oats are going in first, which is not what I meant to happen. I was actually going to try and mix it together. Oh, here I can do that. So that's looking good already. I haven't forgotten anything yet, I hope. Alrighty, here we go. In they go. Oh, we're beginning. Look at this. So exciting. Alright, now I'm working with about 23 litres of water, and that's plenty. It's going to divide up the grains real easy. And all I'm doing now is just pouring in my grains, and I'm going to mix it in really thoroughly. And luckily I've got a lot of water I'm working with. So what I'm doing is just making sure there's no dry bits of grain in here. And I'll try to stop the oats settling on the bottom and get them mixed through. Now Mike did ask if I use rice hulls. Now I've never done it, never used them. I've never actually studied as to why. I should learn that. I really should learn how to use rice hulls. I don't really know what they do. So I'll just go on from what I'm doing now. So that's all mixed in. That actually mixed in really well, really quickly.
Officially mashed in. Pierre, I can only hope everything went smooth for you.
So that's mashing out to 64 degrees Celsius. It's kind of almost the right conversion from the imperial scale that I have from Mike. We're going to leave that for an hour. We're going to come back and increase the temperature to 75 degrees Celsius for an extra 10 minutes. Is it 10 minutes? Half an hour. Half an hour. My apologies. It was 75 minutes mash time and 10 minutes for... I apologise for butting in here, guys. My recording on my GoPro had become corrupt, so I have to overdub. So what I'm talking about here right now is that the mash time is 1 hour and 30 minutes, 90-minute mash time. The first part of the mash is at 75 minutes at 64 degrees Celsius, and the last part is 10 minutes at 75 degrees Celsius. That's all I'm talking about. Now, let's take the basket out.
Okay, that's without any adjustments other than the 4 ounces. 5.29, I'm good with that. 5.28, it's been bouncing back and forth, not too worried.
So looking at the readings, I've just checked it at temperature. Looks at 5.17. 5.17 pH levels. I think that's a good reading. Not sure, I don't know much about this yet. The temperature is about 42 degrees at the moment that I'm checking it at, so I don't know if it's going to make a difference. I'm pretty sure it will.
Pierre, you ready? You mashing out also?
Let's do it.
Let's rock and roll. Pump off. Ow, hot. There we go. I did forget to put the small batch adapter in there, so I think my brew house efficiencies might have suffered a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. Okay, we're gonna let that drain for a little while and then we'll dump the sparge water over the top.
So I'm about to pull the basket out. This is about to start beeping, so I'll stop that. There we go. All right, we'll turn it off. I'll get this all out. Turn the pump off. Actually, keep the heat going. I'm just going to show you guys, I have this beauty. Light's not right on it properly. There you go. Hopefully you can see that. That's my Digi Boil. It's already pre-boiled. I put about 3.5, 4 litres in there to cater for what I want to pour over the top, just to sparge it and get it ready from there. So I haven't got my pulley system today. I haven't got it set up because I've been renovating the shed. But now I need to pull this apart like this. Get it ready. That's that part of it. Right, so I'll rip this out. It's not going to be too hard. Just like that. So it's a lot less grains than I usually do, so it's a lot lighter than it usually is. So what I do now is I'll push the basket down a little, the top tray. Whoop. So I know how far we have. She's hot. And of course I have my preheated sparge water. Like I said, it's about 3.5 to 4 litres of sparge water. I didn't really measure it. All I did was take a bunch out of this so I could use it for sparging later. Mike puts it down to a gallon. We use 1 gallon, which is about 3.6 litres, I think, in our measurement. So unfortunately, you're not going to be able to see what I'm doing here because I haven't got the camera on a good angle. But you don't need to. All I'm doing is I'm going to pour clean water over the top of my grains so that all the sugars wash to the bottom and end up in my boiler ready to go. At this point, I'll just wash and pour the clean water over it, and I'll come back to you guys when I'm ready to start the boil. So this is just about to stop dripping as well. I'm going to take this out, pop it in my little pot down here, just so if it drains a little bit more off, which it will, I can add that to the brew later. See, I don't know if you can see this, but I've got a fair few grains that have been left over. For some reason, I let a fair bit through. Doesn't matter. We'll be right. Okay, I'm going to let it boil. So 212 degrees Fahrenheit is 100 degrees Celsius. So that's where we're heading to, boiling point.
Something I do, and I definitely used to do with the Grainfather because of the high density burners, rub that bottom. That didn't sound right. I don't want scorching on the bottom. The anvil has a low density, so it's less prone to it, but it can still happen. With all that wheat, yeah, we want it to. We're gonna call this a boil. We're gonna start the timer. We've got a couple hop additions towards the end, but right now we've got a 90-minute boil going on, and we'll let it go. I know you don't do imperial there, Pierre. Actually, nobody does but the US, from my understanding. But y'all do minutes and hours, right? Just checking. Okay, we'll do the 90-minute boil, and we got our hop additions. I don't even remember when they are. Maybe you can remind people. And then, of course, we got the 0. And like I said, you can change it up. You can put whatever hops you want in. You can. It doesn't really matter. Anytime you do someone else's recipe, make it your own, and feel free to modify it. It doesn't have to be exact. I mean, there's certain nuances, things people prefer over other things, or maybe you don't have a certain hop or a certain malt, and you have to kind of be a little more flexible. So I will say the 565 yeast, though, is non-negotiable on this one, at least for me. It smells like feet, but tastes so much better. The anvil pump will handle boiling temperatures. I'm not trying to run it through there constantly. I just like to get some of that wort moved, so that way I know it gets a chance to boil, and then I move it again a little later. I hear that a lot, what to do with what's in the tubing. Well, move it on through a little bit. Super simple.
Yeah, so one last job to do is to set the timer for 75 minutes. So at 75 minutes, I have 15 minutes left to boil. That sounds right. And we'll do that now. So the boil time, if you can see my face from the steam, is a 90-minute boil. At 15 minutes before end of boil, I'll add some of my hops, and at 5 minutes, I'll add the other part of the hops. Now, I haven't said what they are, but they are Sultana hops. They are 28.3 grams, and also Waiiti hops at 28.3 grams. So looking forward to smelling them, because apparently they're very citrusy. The Sultana hops is like Denali, so basically I think they renamed Denali or Sultana hops and renamed them Denali to get a copyright on them or something like that, but it's the same hop, what I can tell. We'll let that boil for a while, and I'll come back to you when it's time to add the hops. Okay, we're at the last 15 minutes of the boil. Pierre, where are you at right now? So we're at 75 minutes boil time. Turn that off for a sec, sorry about that. I have to add the new hop addition, which is, where's it gone? Which is Denali or Sultana hops. What an aroma, very citrusy, nice smell. Oh, wow, that is strong. So I'll pop it in. I'll just throw it in my hot basket there, which has been sitting in there for about 20 minutes. I had to clean it right out because these things are not awesome as a basket. Just quickly ring it around. So we'll now set the timer for 15 minutes, no, 10 minutes. So in 10 minutes time, I'll throw in the Waiti, and that will be the 5-minute edition.
Okay, so we had to change it up. I didn't have the Denali. I swear I have 1 ounce of Denali, and I'll probably find it some other day. My freezer is literally filled with hops. I would say it probably covers 85% of my entire beer freezer is filled with more hops than I think I can use this year. I am praying I do a lot of double IPAs to use them up. So instead of Denali, I had to go to let's see if I can get this right. Rocco is what I'm hearing from people in Australia, but Rocco is also what I'm hearing. It's Rakau. Do you know how to pronounce that? Let me know. We had to do 1.5 ounces to make up for the Denali because the IBU is more around 9% for the alpha acids versus the Denali. And I will tell you, it's a really nice hop, but the Waiti, I decided to do 2 ounces at 0 minutes instead of 1 ounce. It's just over the top. I mean, it has 1.5%, I think, alpha acids right now. So it's almost 0 alpha acids in my mind. But the aroma is insane. Rocco, however you want to pronounce it, very mild. So we're gonna go ahead and dump that on in there. It's 1.5 ounces to make up for the 1 ounce of Denali I didn't have. Like I said, the hops are flexible. Try to end up over there with the tropical. This is more stone fruit and some citrus. And same thing with the Waiti, if I'm saying that right. It's the same area. It'll complement the raspberry very much. I have heard people describe this as having a hint of strawberry, raspberry, and other fruits like that. So, and a little hint of earthy, but we'll see how that goes. These are bubbling up a little. I like to give it a little circulation when I put the hops in, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. I'm not even gonna use the big one right now. I'm just gonna, well, I guess I need the big one because that's gonna burn my hand.
So I'm just throwing the water flock tablet in there just to keep it so it can settle down get the protein to sink to the bottom when you do a whirlpool at the end. Right, now it's looking a bit greener. And it looks like the hops are changing the colour of it as well, which is great. So looking forward to seeing the end result to this. It's smelling good. So yeah. Mike, this is great. Let's keep going, huh?
Okay, we're on our last 15 minutes and we'll let it go for about another 5, and then I think I'm going to do my 5-minute additions at 10 minutes instead.
So I'm ready to add the Waiti hops. Much difference, a very big difference in smell and colour. The other one was a much brighter green. This is a darker green, and nowhere near as dominant in the smell. Really nice smell though. So it's time to add my 5-minute addition. So I'll throw that beauty in there. Quickly, I'll just give it a quick rinse around just to make sure it gets through. Put the water properly. Hey, yay, that's hot. And I'll set the timer for 5 minutes. Set. So we're ready to go.
Okay, we're going into the last 5 minutes. This is a Whirlflock, and it's also the yeast nutrient. Wanted to drop it in the last 10, but I dropped it in the last 5. Took a minute to go get it. And it starts to bubble up. Not too worried. I'm going to drop my Jaded Brewing right at the very end. I know a lot of people are like, hey, you got to leave that in for 10-15 minutes. Never had a problem. I'm going to pull the risk, although I may spray it down with a little water just to make sure there's no dust on it. But other than that, it's been pretty clean. And I cleaned the hell out of it after the last brew.
So in 5 minutes time, we'll be ready to cool it down and send it to the fermenter. I'm using a counterflow cooler supplied by the Grainfather system. For me, it works great. I've never had a submersion chiller. Never tried one. Have never experienced it. Don't think I ever will, because this seems to work really well for me as long as I keep the tubes clean. All right, we'll catch you in the next bit.
Okay, we're sitting at 74 Fahrenheit. We're at 1.050. My efficiencies were definitely on the downside. It's kind of funny though, Beersmith says it's 78%. Brewfather says it's 76% for brewhouse efficiencies. So two programs are kind of way off. It should be a little closer together. I'm going to move it over here to the new Firmzilla. Pain in the butt to get that sticky, stupid label on. It should pre-come with it, but basically I did this in multiple directions to make sure it was level so I can measure the volume, because it says to take that and put it at a dot. There's no dot unless you just center it. Very annoying. Also, if I want to put the chiller in, I got to drill some holes, which I think they should have designed it to use the current holes. Yeah. Mixed feelings. We won't say not impressed, although I'm not impressed. Mixed feelings. We'll see. I'm going to move the beer over there, and then we're going to go and heat up the raspberries and dump them on in. And actually, I was wrong. My Beersmith had showed 1 pound twice, primary, secondary, and then 2 pounds at the final. But when I moved it over to Brewfather, I decided to go back to the original 12 ounces for primary, 12 ounces for secondary, and 24 ounces for final. So I'm going to stick to that actually. I don't want it to be a raspberry bomb. I want it to be nice and subtle and nice and smooth, and we're going to stick to that. Okay, let's move some beer.
All right, we're ready for the transfer. It should be, as soon as I put the water on, the temperature should drop in the tube. I'll get a thermometer, I'll be back. The temperature in the tube should drop down very quickly to about, right at this moment, it's still running at about 29 degrees Celsius, which I'll put a Fahrenheit up there for you guys in America. Once it reaches about 25, I should be happy about transferring it to the fermenter. Alright, it's coming out at a really good temperature now, so I'm going to transfer it into my keg. It's 26 degrees Celsius. I'm keen to get stuck into it, so I want to get that in there. I don't think I missed anything, so I'll stop that from running for a sec while I'll transfer it, pop it over here, and we'll start the pump. My pump is started. We'll get it cranking. Here we go. Look at that goodness. Look at that. It's a bit cloudy. It's looking really good. It's tasting really nice. I'll get a sample. Actually, I'm using my tilt, so that'll tell me what the gravity is and the temperature at the time. So we're on it. So apparently we're need about 18.6 litres or so. So I hope we reach that goal. The gauge on this side is at 18's about here. So I reckon we'll get there. Right, now I'm going to go and get my raspberry, and I'll be back soon.
This is 12 ounces of all natural raspberries, Trader Joe's, and it's been frozen, thawed, frozen again, thawed. Not quite thawed all the way, but it's thawing. And we're going to heat this bad boy up to about 140, 150, actually 150 Fahrenheit. Go ahead and drop an entire cup of water in there. Get all the raspberry goodness out of there. So we got 1 cup of spring water. And I'm going to kick up the heat. And once we get to about 150, we'll keep it there for about 20 minutes. We don't want to cook them so much and lose all that nice aroma and flavor. We just want to kill anything and make sure it's 100% pasteurized, and then throw it on in the juice. So I'm going to use a strainer to get just juice. Set that right there. If you have one of these, great. If not, do whatever you got, but it's a masher. I like it because I can crush the things down and get them all squished, get all the goodness out of them. We're getting there pretty fast. Okay, we're there. We're at 160 almost, 150 in some areas, but that's okay. We'll just stir it and let it kind of simmer. We'll let that go for about 20 minutes. Okay, I decided to put a lid on it and push it to the back. That way I know I'm not gonna lose all that aroma. It was like major raspberry smell, and all that smell is a limited quantity. I don't want it to go all the way, so we're gonna keep that in there, let it sit for a while. I'll double check temperature periodically, which should work right through that little hole. It was worth a shot. We'll try it later. I'll verify it, but we'll check about every 10 minutes, and at the end of the 20, we should be good. Okay, let's get this done. You may have to repeat this process a few times rather than not splashing raspberries all over your house. Just because it's going to get a lot of gunk in here. A little of this may get through too, which is okay. You want all that raspberry juice. I know this seems kind of dumb. This is the way I've always done it. It always works and it comes out amazing. This is why some people turn to flavorings, because it's a lot easier and cheaper. You're going to repeat this process for the secondary, and then you're going to double this for the actual final. Whether you're kegging or bottling, when you bottle, you definitely have to take the consideration of the sugars and some of the carbohydrates into consideration. One year I did do car bombs, not intentionally. And that's C-A-R-B-O-M-B, not car. Okay, so we got about 1.5 cups raspberry juice. So about 1 cup of water and 1/2 cup of raspberry juice from real raspberries.
So I'm going to put in 24 ounces at the start for fermenting, and then I'm going to do 12 ounces, and then I'm going to do 24 ounces again. So it's going to have a little bit more of a raspberry taste compared to your one. So I hope you don't mind, but I think it's going to come out good anyway. So I'm going to add that in. So we'll pour that in there like this. Now I hope this looks like your brew. It's looking definitely like what I can see in your video. So I'm hoping that we're on a winner here. Okay, so I have a tilt hydrometer. My tilt hydrometer as well will already show me, like Mike's, will show me the gravity reading before I pitch the yeast, which I want to do now, as well as provide me with the temperature of the wort, which is very interesting to keep watching on the phone. You can keep checking it. Now I'm going to take this into my house where it stays at 21 degrees Celsius, which I believe is about 72 or something degrees Fahrenheit. I'll have to look that up. I'll pop it up on the screen there. So the only thing I have to do now is drop this in, which I'll sanitize before I drop it in, and pitch my yeast.
Okay, first time with this Firmzilla, and I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna have to get one of those rubber things with the plastic handles. I'm pretty sure you have one out there, Pierre. I think I've seen you with it for your fermenter. Yeah, I had to take my pants off. No, just kidding. Take my belt off, which means my pants are trying to fall down. Just so I could get this thing open. What a nightmare without that tool. So I'm gonna go ahead, open mine up. Pierre's been waiting for me on this one because I had some difficulties. There we go. And like I said, I'm going to ferment this under pressure for the first time. I've got my tilt. We'll go ahead and just drop that on there. I've already calibrated it. That is 1.5 cups of raspberry juice. There was a cup of water in there, so it's probably closer to 1/2 cup of raspberry, if not a little more. Some of that water may have gotten in the raspberry. And there we go. The fermenter's ready. We'll get a gravity on that and I'll put that up there. Let's dump our yeast. We got our 565. Sorry for the echo off of this thing. I got a magnet on here. Pitching your yeast now, Pierre.
Yeast provided by Bitter Reality Brewing. Mike, thank you very much. Out of the fridge, it's Belgian Saison ale yeast, WLP 565. Now Mike was saying that this smells like feet. We're about to find out. Grab my scissors, I'll sanitize those as well, just to make sure nothing on that will get into my wort. Right. I don't know if I should open it like that. Here we go. Alright, hello. Oh, okay, so it's inside. I had no idea. There you go. So that is open. Is that open there? No. We'll open that a bit more. There we go, let out into the air. So now, let's smell it. Oh, it smells like beer. Doesn't smell like feet to me. How do I, Alright, ready for it. Pitching the yeast. There's a lot left over. How do I get that out? Ooh, this is I have to squeeze it. There we go.
Take a good smell of 565. You get a little bit of fruit, a little spice in there, but as far as I'm concerned, it kind of smells like feet. I know that sounds bad, but it'll do a great job. It just doesn't smell good initially. The feet odor is a good odor. That means it's doing what it needs to be doing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and seal this bad boy up. I'm going to let it get up to 10 psi once it starts carbonating, or not carbonating, fermenting, sorry. And have it right here. I may swap it out for the Spunded 2.0, but I don't know, I need to test them both. But we'll stick it on here and let it rock and roll. So let's get going.
So guys, a couple of things I did differently to what Mike did is, one, I basically pre-pressurized my fermenter at 15 psi because I want to ferment at 15 psi because I want the carbonation to be carbonated. I don't mind it a little bit, and it saves me a lot of work carbonating later. It doesn't seem to affect the brew. It seems to make it really work really well. It doesn't take away the oxygen that's already in there. That's because I don't purge. When you purge, that's when you remove the oxygen as well. So the carbonation, the CO2 and the oxygen is still in the tank. So I'm sure it will ferment just as good. The other thing I'm doing too is I have a jacket for mine, so I'm going to take it into the house where it's nice and cool, well, 21 degrees, and it stays that way all the time. We really have a good central heating system and a pretty efficient little house, and it will stay there at 21 degrees Celsius for as long as it takes to ferment. I also haven't done a gravity reading. I did a gravity reading on my tilt through my phone. I'm trusting it. The gravity reading came out at 1050, and the temperature at that gravity reading was 27 degrees Celsius. So I'll pop a Fahrenheit up here somewhere, on the left, right, wherever it comes up, just to show you the differences between what I'm saying. I can't physically remember how to calculate Fahrenheit to Celsius because it's a weird calculation. I know it's 32 degrees Fahrenheit, it's 0 degrees in Australia, in Celsius, sorry. So there you go. So if I say it's 32 degrees outside, it's damn hot. No, I'm joking.
Thank you again for joining us here at Bitter Reality Brewing. Thanks again to Pierre.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much for sharing this with me. It is a great experience. It was a task and a half to get organised to do this, and I'm really proud of the fact that we got to do this from two parts of the world. Really good, and I hope I meet some of your subscribers as well. It'd be great. So thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and remember, check out Mike's channel, Bitter Reality Brewing. I left a link down in the description, so don't forget to click on it and say hi. We'll catch you on the next one. This was awesome. See you soon. Oh, and we are going to do a taste test on this product as soon as it's ready to drink. Cheers, guys. See you soon.
Thank you again. Don't forget, like, subscribe, keep sharing. Definitely appreciate it.